Alright, so I've been digging through some seriously underrated retro games lately. And honestly, there are so many hidden gems people just don't talk about anymore. In this video, I'm sharing 15 must-play titles from the NES, Sega Genesis/Mega Drive that still feel fun even in 2026. You might have missed them back then, but trust me, they're totally worth your time now. Let's rediscover some classics together and drop your favorite NES game in the comments. Grand Theft Auto. I still find it fascinating that the very first Grand Theft Auto from 1997 already had the DNA of the open world games we see everywhere today. Developed by DMA Design and released on PC and PlayStation, the game dropped players into a top-down city where the goal was simple: cause chaos, complete criminal jobs, and climb the ranks. What made it feel so different back then was the freedom. Instead of pushing me through strict levels, the game just gave me a city and let me figure things out. I could steal any car, listen to different radio stations, explore districts, and choose missions whenever I wanted. Sure, the camera was zoomed out and the graphics were simple, but the sense of freedom was huge for its time. People loved it for that rebellious sandbox energy. If you enjoy seeing where open world crime games truly began, this one still feels like a fascinating time capsule. The Legend of Zelda. Whenever I go back to The Legend of Zelda from 1986, I'm always reminded of how bold it felt for its time. Developed by Nintendo for the NES, the game didn't push me through a strict order of levels. Instead, it dropped me into a big overworld and basically said, "Go explore, have fun." That design choice was huge. I could walk in almost any direction, stumble into hidden caves, find secret upgrades, or accidentally enter a dungeon I probably wasn't ready for yet. The overworld itself felt like a puzzle full of mysteries, with bombable walls, hidden shops, and powerful items tucked away in unexpected places. Back then, that kind of freedom was rare. Players loved sharing secrets with friends because discovering things felt personal. Even today, it's easy to see why this game became legendary. For retro fans, it's one of the earliest examples of a game trusting players to create their own adventure.
Father! Stay back, mule. For the last time, where is the mirror? I've no intention of telling you.
Shenmue. When I first experienced Shenmue, it honestly felt way ahead of its time. Released in 1999 for the Dreamcast and directed by Yu Suzuki at Sega, the game tried something incredibly ambitious, recreating everyday life in a detailed Japanese town. Instead of constant action, the world moved its own schedule. Shops opened and closed, NPCs followed daily routines, and I had to explore the neighborhood to gather clues. The story follows Ryo Hazuki investigating his father's murder. But what really stood out was how the town itself felt alive. I could play arcade games, talk to locals, explore streets, and slowly piece together the mystery. At the time, it was one of the most expensive games ever made, and expectations were huge. Some players loved the slow pace, while others found it unusual. But looking back, it clearly pushed open world design in a new direction. Elite. I love talking about Elite because it shows how ambitious developers were even in the 1980s. Created by David Braben and Ian Bell, the game was first released in 1984 on the BBC Micro and later appeared on many other systems. Instead of a single map, Elite gave players an entire procedurally generated galaxy with hundreds of star systems to explore. My goal wasn't just combat, it was building a career in space. I could trade goods, hunt pirates, smuggle cargo, or upgrade my ship. The open structure meant every player's journey felt different. For the time, the 3D wireframe graphics and massive universe were mind-blowing. Many people consider Elite one of the earliest true sandbox games. If you enjoy games where you create your own story instead of following a fixed path, this classic still feels surprisingly modern despite its simple presentation. Body Harvest. There's something really unique about Body Harvest, especially when you realize it came from DMA design in 1998 for the Nintendo 64. The premise is wild. Aliens attack Earth across different time periods, and I travel through history trying to stop them. Each area works like a small open map where I can explore villages, steal vehicles, and fight enemies in different ways. Cars, tanks, boats, and even planes become tools for survival. What makes the game interesting is how it mixes exploration with mission-based objectives, something that feels like an early experiment before modern open-world formulas became common. It didn't get huge mainstream attention at the time, but a lot of players later realized how ambitious it was. Looking back now, it feels like a stepping stone towards larger sandbox action games that would appear in the early 2000s. The Elder Scrolls III: Morrowind. Whenever I think about massive RPG worlds from the early 2000s, The Elder Scrolls III: Morrowind always comes to mind. Developed by Bethesda Game Studios and released in 2002 on PC and Xbox, the game drops you into the strange fantasy land of Vardenfell. What I love about it is the freedom. I can ignore the main story for hours and just explore towns, caves, ruins, and guild quest lines. The world feels handcrafted and mysterious, filled with giant mushrooms, ash storms, and ancient temples. Instead of constant hand-holding, the game expects players to actually read directions and figure things out themselves. At the time, it was praised for its depth and scale. Many RPG fans still see it as one of the most immersive fantasy worlds ever created. If you enjoy getting lost in exploration and storytelling, Morrowind is still a masterpiece worth experiencing. GTA 2. Going from the original to Grand Theft Auto 2 in 1999 felt like the formula getting sharper and more confident. Developed again by DMA Design for PC and PlayStation, the game expanded the open city chaos with bigger maps and a new gang reputation system. What I always found interesting was how missions were tied to different gangs. If I worked for one faction, another might start hating me, which added a small strategic layer to all the chaos. The top-down view was still there, but the world felt more alive thanks to better AI, radio stations, and more dynamic police chases. It kept the freedom of the first game while making everything a little deeper. Fans enjoyed the anarchic gameplay, and it helped push the series closer to the massive open-world success it would later become. Shadowrun. The SNES version of Shadowrun from 1993, developed by Beam Software, always stood out to me because of its cyberpunk setting mixed with magic. Instead of linear RPG progression, the game places me in the role of Jake Armitage, exploring the streets of a futuristic Seattle. I can wander through districts, talk to contacts, take on side jobs, and slowly build my character's skills. The game blends shooting, hacking, and investigation, which was pretty unique at the time. What really sells the world is the atmosphere. Dark alleys, neon lights, shady corporations, and strange magical threats. Players loved how it allowed different approaches to solving problems, even if the controls felt unusual sometimes. For retro fans who enjoy experimental RPG design and cyberpunk storytelling, Shadowrun is one of those games that still feels distinctive decades later. Ocarina of Time. The first time I stepped into the open fields of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time in 1998, it honestly felt magical. Developed by Nintendo for the Nintendo 64, the game brought the Zelda formula into full 3D for the first time. Hyrule Field acts as the central hub connecting towns, dungeons, and secrets scattered across the world. Riding across that landscape on horseback made the adventure feel massive back then. While the game still uses structured dungeons, the overworld encourages exploration and discovery with hidden grottos, side quests, and memorable characters everywhere. Critics and players praised it heavily, and it quickly became one of the most influential games ever made. For many retro fans, this game represents the moment when 3D adventure games truly found their identity. Driver. When I think about cinematic driving games from the late 90s, Driver always stands out. Released in 1999 for PlayStation and PC and developed by Reflections Interactive, the game puts me in the role of an undercover driver navigating cities inspired by Miami, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York. What makes it interesting is that each city acts like an open playground for driving. I can roam the streets, complete missions, or escape intense police chases. The physics-based driving and cinematic presentation made it feel like an action movie. Players loved the thrilling pursuits and realistic car handling, even though the infamous parking garage tutorial frustrated many people. Still, Driver captured the fantasy of being a getaway driver in a living city, which made it an important step toward later open-world crime games. Mizzurna Falls. One of the most interesting hidden gems from the PlayStation era is Mizzurna Falls from 1998, developed by Human Entertainment. The game takes place in a quiet rural town where a high school student investigates a missing person case. What makes it special is the open environment. You can drive around town, visit locations in any order, and talk to residents to uncover clues. Time actually passes in the game world, which means events happen at specific hours. That system made the investigation feel more realistic. The atmosphere is slow and mysterious, almost like an interactive drama rather than a typical action game. While it was never released outside Japan, many retro fans discovered it later and appreciated how experimental it was. If you like story-driven exploration games, this one feels surprisingly modern for its time. Wasteland. Before many modern post-apocalyptic RPGs existed, there was Wasteland from 1988. Developed by Interplay Productions for PC systems like the Apple II and Commodore 64. The game puts me in charge of a squad of desert rangers exploring a ruined United States after nuclear war. Instead of guiding me through a fixed path, the world opens up with towns, hostile areas, and strange encounters waiting to be discovered. Combat uses tactical turn-based mechanics, while exploration encourages curiosity and careful decision-making. One thing that made the game unique was its narrative depth. With a physical paragraph book used to reveal story events, players loved the freedom and complex systems, even if it was challenging. Looking back, Wasteland clearly influenced many RPGs that came later, proving that open exploration and role-playing games was already evolving decades ago.
Drop your weapons now!
This rap party, anyone join?
Urban Chaos. Whenever I look back at Urban Chaos from 1999, I'm reminded of how ambitious it was for a late 90s console game. Developed by Mucky Foot Productions and released on PlayStation and PC, the game puts me in the role of a police officer trying to clean up a crime-ridden city. What makes it interesting is how the city districts act like open spaces where I can chase criminals on foot, investigate crimes, and patrol the streets. The gameplay mixes shooting, melee combat, and rescue missions, creating a dynamic sense of policing rather than simple linear missions. At the time, players appreciated how interactive the city felt, even though the controls could be rough. Still, the idea of patrolling an open urban environment was pretty unique back then. For retro fans curious about early sandbox-style city games, Urban Chaos is a fascinating experiment. Arcanum of Steamworks and Magick Obscura. When I first discovered Arcanum of Steamworks and Magick Obscura from 2001, I was blown away by how massive and recreative the world felt. Developed by Troika Games for PC, this RPG blends classic fantasy with steampunk technology. What really stands out is the freedom in character building. I can focus on magic, advanced technology, or a mix of both, and the world reacts differently depending on my choices. The map itself is huge, filled with towns, dungeons, and factions that I can approach in multiple ways. Conversations, quests, and outcomes often change based on my skills and decisions. The game wasn't perfect technically, but many players loved its depth and storytelling. For anyone who enjoys classic RPG systems and player-driven exploration, Arcanum still feels incredibly rich and rewarding today. Mercenary. Finally, there's Mercenary, released in 1985 for the Atari 8-bit computers and Commodore 64. This game drops me on a mysterious alien planet and basically says, figure things out. I can fly spacecraft, drive vehicles, and explore different locations while dealing with rival factions. There isn't much hand-holding, which makes the experience feel like solving a giant puzzle. The wireframe 3D graphics were impressive at the time and helped create a sense of scale rarely seen in games from that era. Players who enjoy experimentation and discovery found a lot of love here. Even today, Mercenary stands as an early example of a truly open sci-fi sandbox where curiosity and exploration drive the entire adventure. So yeah, looking back at these games, it's clear that open world ideas didn't just start in modern gaming. A lot of retro developers were already experimenting with freedom, exploration, and letting players create their own path. Even with limited technology, these games managed to feel big and ambitious. That's what makes them so interesting to revisit today. Like this video if you liked even one game from this list, and let me know which one I missed.